Welcome to Between the Lines, the sports betting podcast for DraftKings. I'm your host, Eric Rosenthal. With me, as always, are Garion Thorne.
Hey, guys.
And Will Appleby.
Yo, 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 yo.
Well, college football is finally here. I could not be more excited.
You, Jesus, or whatever deity you worship.
Yeah, it is the best time of the year. College football kicking off. Technically, it already did kick off. My University of Arizona Wildcats.
Miami hasn't kicked off yet, to be fair. But
yeah, my University of Arizona Wildcats had one of the craziest endings you'll see all year with Khalil Tate trying to run 30 yards to the end zone and falling just a yard short in Hawaii with the 11-point underdogs with the upset in week 0. But now it's the real college football season's here, so we're going to get into all that, talk so many teams, national championship, Heisman odds, everything you want to know. But first, a couple things in the NFL. We have to talk about Andrew Luck retiring out of nowhere, how that affects the Colts, the gambling odds for everything from their week 1 matchup to who's going to win the division. So, Will, I'll start with you. Like, what was your first reaction that Andrew Luck retired and just your thoughts on the Colts in general?
I have to censor it, I guess, would be my first reaction. Would be my exact words, because, whoa, I was not prepared for that. But I think with Luck deciding to, enough is enough, and, the injuries just wore him down, which, I mean, you can't blame him. I mean, he played with a lacerated kidney, for God's sake. So with him just kind of stepping out, the timing sucks, but they've got Jacoby Brissett. And I think, Garion had mentioned to me before the show that their win total for the season looked pretty low, and I would agree with that. 6.5 seems kind of low, but I mean, I think they pretty much just handed the division to the Texans, even with Miller going down. I don't think Lamar Miller going down will really change much. Mr. Running Backs don't matter over here, Rosenthal. I don't think he cares. Betting wise, I think people will expect them to suck maybe more than they should. Division wise, it's Houston's to lose.
So, Garion, what did you think about Andrew Luck's retirement? Were you as shocked as everybody else in the world?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there have kind of been some M. Night Shyamalan looking backwards, writing on the wall moments. Like when they came out last year and said we wouldn't trade a first-round pick for Jacoby Brissett. Like, okay, maybe this has come up before, and maybe they knew they needed some sort of backup plan at quarterback, and they liked Jacoby Brissett. But no, I was shocked. I mean, I wrote an article for the DK Playbook about 2.5 months ago talking about how Andrew Luck was my favorite MVP candidate at 10-1 odds. I loved Andrew Luck.
Mentioned it on here too, I think.
Yeah. Look, I had high expectations for him this season. I completely understand. But we had actually, my main keeper league, we'd had our draft Friday night. I was at a party Saturday night, maybe not at the top of my game in terms of my wits, but there was a lot of chatter in the group message about oh, what a bad pick with Andrew Luck. Oh, man, you cursed Andrew Luck. And I was just thinking maybe they had ruled him out for 6 weeks or something like that, hopped over to Twitter and did not expect to see Andrew Luck had retired. So was definitely shocked. But, yeah, I think – there are 2 really key things from a gambling perspective to look at because of this. Will mentioned one of the big ones, which is the Texans at plus 125. Look, I understand that there's been some very public things going wrong with the Texans this offseason. The Jadeveon Clowney stuff has been very, very public. You'd obviously like for one of their better defensive players to be playing. And then the Lamar Miller thing from an optics perspective doesn't look great, but I think more snaps for Duke Johnson is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't know if he can play 75, 80% of snaps, but I think Lamar Miller was pretty much a replacement level running back at this point, and you can find someone to replace him. I don't think that's that big an issue. So at plus money, I really like the Texans. And look, one of the reasons the Texans odds weren't good to begin with was they were coming into the season with, according to Warren Sharp's metrics, the hardest schedule in football. But a big part of that was they had to play the Colts twice. And obviously the Colts are not quite up to snuff, at least how they were at the beginning of those metrics. And then in terms of the Colts win total at 6.5, they've got a pretty easy schedule when you really break it all down. They've got 3 games they're 100% going to lose. They've got to play the Chargers on the road. They've got to play the Chiefs on the road, and they've got to play the Saints on the road. So you can look at it and say they have 3 definite losses, but that also means their home schedule is relatively simple. Like they've got the Jaguars at home. They've got the Panthers at home. Like they've got some winnable games. Then they've got the Titans twice. They've got the Broncos. They've got the Dolphins. They've got the Buccaneers. Like this is not all that daunting a schedule. I think Jacoby Brissett is a perfectly capable NFL starting quarterback. I'm not putting him inside the top 20 or anything, but I think he's not someone who's going to lose you games necessarily. And then we're talking about a team that by DVOA had the 10th best defense in football last season, the second best pass blocking offensive line, and the fourth best run blocking offensive line. Like if you want to find a way to get together 8, maybe even 9 wins in an ugly fashion, having a really good offensive line and a pretty good defense is a great way to start. So I think that we're really lowering the bar pretty far for a team that had like Super Bowl expectations less than 72 hours ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a complete shock that Andrew Luck is no longer in the NFL. And I think from my perspective, I'm sure he'll be back eventually, whether it's next year,
Really?
2 years from now. I would be amazed if this was really the end from Andrew Luck, because he's so young, so much time, so much can happen in his life. And if he just enjoys his family and friends in the Bahamas or whatever for the next 2 years and finally actually gets healthy, taking no beatings, I'd be shocked. Maybe he'll come back with Bill Belichick and the Patriots once Tom Brady retires.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
don't say that.
Nightmare. Everybody's nightmare.
But you make a great point about the Texans with Lamar Miller going down. Duke Johnson in the last 3 years for running backs, he's second in yards per touch. That's running and catching the ball. But he's, an elite running back in that way because he catches the ball a lot more than running it. And Mr. Running Backs don't matter, like I said, like Will called me out for, but throw Duke Johnson the ball. That's better than handing the ball to basically any other back just because passing is more efficient. But again, you made a great point about Jacoby Brissett and the Colts. Like that line dropped probably too far, too much of an overreaction. The Colts don't look like they're going to tank this year away. And that's what an over-under of 6.5 means, is like you got to be tanking. The games you said, like the Chiefs game, the Chargers game, I actually like those games are on the road. I'd rather the Colts have to just take their loss to the Chiefs on the road because they weren't going to beat the Chiefs at home.
Again, it works out really well for their home schedule. Like they've got all their divisional games. Like I said, they got the Panthers, they've got the Dolphins at home, they've got the Bucks at home. Like there are going to be games where the Colts are still favored by like 7 points.
Exactly. And then maybe they'll tie the Texans. I don't know how that'll work with their over under 6.5 again. But
I don't think that Texans plus money, that line for the division, I don't think that stays plus money very long.
I agree with that, yeah.
I don't
exactly. It alters
like a
that.
week more.
I don't think people are running to the books to like bet the Titans to win the AFC South. And look, even if people like Nick Foles, and I know Nick Foles is like public perception has probably never been higher than it is right now, except for maybe like the second after he won the Super Bowl. But I don't think a lot of people want to bet the Jaguars at plus 250 either. So I think just out of sheer like, oh, something major happened, I want to bet this, people are going to be pushing that Texans line. So yeah, I'd get on it right now.
I'm going to give you one worry on why I possibly would wait. Week 1, Texans play at the Saints, and they are 7-point underdogs. If they take a loss there, might get better odds. Kind of a Twins.
Well, the Jaguars have the Chiefs, so I mean,
yeah, and the Colts have the Chargers, so we could see just a round of 0-1s across the board here.
Titans to win the AFC South. Lock it in right now.
Oh, the Titans have the Browns, so
I know.
I promised myself I would never put any serious money on Marcus Mariota, and I'm sticking to that.
Yeah, well,
Ryan Tannehill, on the other hand.
Oh yeah, lock your money into Ryan Tannehill.
Garion's ready to see Tannehill go off for the Titans. I know it.
It would hurt me. That would cut me real bad.
Former college wide receiver Ryan Tannehill, which is a great transition to college football. There's a million things.
We'll go with that.
In college football, and so many games in week 1, and we'll get to those in a second. I just wanted to get to the Heisman odds first. Trevor Lawrence is the favorite to win plus 188. Tua I'm not even trying to say his last name. I always butcher it. You know who I'm talking about. Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. Whatever. He's plus 250, and then Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is plus 1,400 to win the Heisman. There's also a prop, Tua to win the Heisman, Tua or Trevor at minus 143. In the entire field, everybody else in the entire country, you, me, any player on any team plus 120. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on Tua, Trevor, the field, and just your Heisman thoughts in general. Will?
I got Garion at plus money to win the Heisman. I like his odds. No, I mean, it's Tua or Lawrence for a reason. You know, they're favorite. It's going to be them. You know, it's going to be an Alabama at the Clemson at the top. It's going to be Alabama-Clemson national title game again, which on a related note, there is a bet about that, which is plus money if it's going to be Alabama and Clemson in the title game, which give me some of that if it's plus money. So that's my initial thoughts. Somebody I like in the tier after Tua and Trevor Lawrence, this would be a real dart throw, is Justin Fields from Ohio State. And obviously Jalen Hurts because Oklahoma wins the Heisman every year. But so those would be my two picks outside of those two. But I mean, I think those two are favored for a reason.
Yeah, Gary, what are your thoughts on the Heisman? Is one of those two main guys going to win, and which one do you like more?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the argument against Tua is just we kind of saw this play out with Alabama last year where, you know, their starting quarterback might only play 2.5 quarters a game. But they tend to put up enough stats where that doesn't really matter anyway. I think they're the clear-cut favorites for a reason. But if you needed a couple dart throws, I think the 22-1 range that has both Jake Fromm and Justin Herbert in it is not a terrible place to look. I mean, Herbert obviously has the talent to win the Heisman. This is a guy who we're all projecting to be the number 2 overall pick after Tua in the 2020 draft. And you go through some of the numbers from last season, I think it was he had 54 or 55 drop passes by Oregon wide receivers. And that would just have to normalize this year. And it just seems like he's going to have a better season than he had last year. And then the case for Fromm is, I mean, first and foremost, he's a very talented quarterback. He's probably not going to be splitting snaps as much this season as he was last year for that Georgia team. And if Georgia wins the SEC championship game against Alabama, that's just narrative street at that point. But I don't know. I do think that much like the odds to win the national championship are so heavily stilted and for good reason, it's hard to envision making a lot of money betting underdogs for the Heisman this year.
Yeah, I want to know what you guys think. I'm actually going to take the field over Tua and Trevor to win the Heisman.
I'm not.
I don't have anybody specific in mind, but who's going to be this year's Lamar Jackson? Who's going to be this year's Baker Mayfield? He was a walk-on. You can never really expect that's going to happen. And the truth is, I don't know. Maybe it's some mid-major school who goes undefeated and makes the college football playoff. I mean,
that's what it is. That's the caveat. It requires an undefeated season. So, yeah. I mean, there's only a couple of people you can really look at, which is why I like Justin Fields, actually. Because if somebody's going to do it, it would be Ohio State. Yeah,
Justin Fields has a good shot. He'd be included in the field of bets, obviously.
Just walks right into that
one. I just think there's going to be somebody that has a great year. Remember 2 years ago when UCF won the national championship, you know, you have a similar situation like that where a team comes out of nowhere and has that undefeated season. So I'll take the field, but obviously I'd love
Brandon Wimbush. I think he's like plus 10,000 to win Heisman.
Maybe. But I
can fully endorse not betting on Brandon Wimbush. I'm going to throw him into my don't bet on these specific quarterbacks grouping for the show.
Well, that's probably a good decision.
Gary and Eric Bledsoe list.
But it's not anything against Tua or Trevor Lawrence. I like them both as quarterbacks, obviously for great reasons. There's nothing I have against either of them, but injuries happen. You never know this early in the season. And I'd rather just take my chances with the field and not hope for injuries or hope for anything to go wrong. But we saw with Jalen Hurts, all of a sudden he went from Alabama starting quarterback, and then in the national championship he's gone. So you just never really know what's going to happen.
I mean, if you're going to take the chance, that's the way to do it. You do the field. You don't pick these 2,200 plus 2,200 type guys. As much as I like Justin Fields.
Yeah, I agree with that. So Clemson and Alabama, similar situation, almost the exact same situation, minus 190 to win the championship. One of those two teams or any other team plus 155. I guess I'll ask the same question I just asked for the Heisman. Are you taking the Clemson and Bama guys, Garion, or are you taking any other team to win the national title?
No, I think this is the same situation as last year, and we saw it play out during the course of the college playoff as well. Like, look, I don't want to say long suffering, but I'm a guy who decided to be a Notre Dame fan in like 1999, which hasn't worked out very well. Sort of similar to I started to be a Dolphins fan the day Dan Marino retired. So I'm really winning at this whole sports thing.
You can see why you aren't a big football fan.
Yeah. But I just think that where last season it was almost just inevitable what was going to happen. And I just don't really see anyone who could stack up against these two teams. They've just built themselves into such powerhouses. And I think, look, if you don't want to necessarily bet them at that heavy odds to win the national championship, there are other ways to go about this. I know Will already talked about a particular prop where you can kind of get that at plus money if you want to bet that particular national championship matchup. If you just want to parlay,
I mean, that's plus 225.
It's pretty amazing, yeah. But even if you just want to bet Clemson to win the ACC and Alabama to win the SEC and parlay that together, it's minus 105. You're talking even
parlay
money
together. That's better. I wouldn't do that individually.
No, I mean, Clemson's like minus 500, but really that bet, what you're coming down to is, can Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship game? And look, it might not even be Georgia. We've seen Florida do weird things, and the Gators kind of make just an awful SEC championship game by pulling off some fluke late in the season, or Georgia falling and misstepping in week 11 or week 12. So I just think there are ways to go about this where you don't have to bet this at incredibly bad odds. You can find your way to better odds.
Yeah. Real quick, to win the national championship, Clemson plus 175, Alabama plus 250, Georgia plus 900. I believe Michigan plus 1,800, and everybody else is higher than that. To me, I love Clemson plus Bama minus 190 for the championship more than I like those Heisman odds, because it's similar to like a Warriors situation to me, where things have to go disastrously wrong for those teams not to go all the way. And we saw with the Warriors how possible it is, the injuries to Klay Thompson and Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant.
I mean, it would take Lawrence or Tua going down.
But right. And
pretty much what it is.
Right. The difference here to me is when you get two teams is if there's a good chance they meet in the national title. And if there is a situation where somebody goes down, one of those teams stumbles, you have the other one in your back pocket. You have two just completely dominant teams where they're just kind of like the Warriors, where they just should make it all the way. They should win. But if something somehow goes wrong, like it did for the Warriors, well, you got the other one in your back pocket, and somebody on that team's going to step up. They'll win. One of those teams is going to win the national championship. So I love Clemson and Bama plus minus 190. But who do you like better, guys? Is it Alabama plus 250? Is it Clemson plus 175? You somehow on Georgia plus 900?
I mean, look, I'm just at this point, as someone, again, as a long-suffering Dolphins fan, I'm very much in the evaluating quarterbacks mode for the next 2 years. Tua's fantastic, and his skill set is incredible, but I don't know. Trevor Lawrence just seems like the guy. It's just hard for me to bet against him at this point. The throws he was making last season, you give him another year in that system. I just would not want to face Trevor Lawrence ever. So, and I think also their path to the national championship is just inherently going to be easier than Alabama's. I mean, say what you will about the SEC, and I love to hate them as much as anybody, but Bama will have to play A&M. They will have to play LSU. They will have to play Auburn. And by the time they play Auburn in the Iron Bowl, their true freshman quarterback will have like 12 games under his belt. So I do think the path is a little bit harder. So I can understand and I can also appreciate why Clemson is the favorite here. And I would take him at plus 175.
Will, where are you going? Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, the field? I'm assuming it's one of those top
as
two.
Much as it pains me as a Florida State alum, Clemson, by far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually an Alabama guy. I've always believed in Nick Saban in Alabama, but Trevor Lawrence is just absolutely amazing if he stays healthy. And like Garion pointed out, Clemson just has an easier road to make it to that national championship than Alabama does with that SEC championship.
But at the same time, I can see why that might trip them up because they have a lot of trap games.
Yeah.
I expect my Florida State team to be better. They've got a win total of 7.5. I think they'll be over that. I think they're going to be an 8-4, 9-3 type team. I think we can give them a good run. They tend to struggle with teams like Pitt. The random teams you just expect them to cruise over. Clemsoning was a thing for a while for a reason.
What would have to happen in your mind for Clemson to not make the playoff? I guess is a good way to go about it.
Trevor Lawrence
if they lose a game,
Trevor Lawrence going down.
Yeah,
they'd have to lose twice. I think they'd have to lose.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think they could lose a trap game and still make the playoff.
I think they can lose a trap game and still get there. I mean, I think that might screw with seeding, but maybe that gives them a matchup that doesn't work so well in the first playoff game. But I think they'd have to lose twice, and they won't.
Yeah.
Their win total is 11.5, and over is favored. So I mean, there you go. And I would take the over there too. So
exactly, and we'll get to some other team win totals, but yeah, even if they lose a game, they go under. They're still going to make it, and it's even possible they make it if they lose twice. I don't know why
the title game is not going to scare them at all. They're favoring Miami, and look at how that Miami team looked against Florida.
Yeah.
That favored to win that division. So that ACC title game they'll win 49-7. So that won't stop them. It could trip up Alabama. It won't trip up Clemson.
And you asked Garion what could happen. Well, people are not going to believe me when I say this. I think I said it before on this podcast, a different time, but Nathan Peterman went on the road at Clemson, had more passing yards, more passing touchdowns, more rushing yards, and more rushing touchdowns.
That was the Pitt quarterback.
Deshaun Watson, and beat Clemson on the road. So you never really know. That was Nathan.
That was where John Gruden first fell in love. So
exactly. So maybe Nathan Peterman will be throwing touchdowns for the Raiders later this season.
Nathan Peterman should definitely look into if he can go back to college, because I think he'd be a lot more successful there. So I think you're on the right track here.
Yeah, I would love an exemption. We should allow Tim Tebow to play for Florida, right? That would make everybody happy.
I don't know, man. Everyone's loving him, batting 150 for the St. Lucie Mets or whatever he's doing now.
He needs to play in the XFL with Johnny Manziel.
Oh, that'd be good.
And that's what we really need. Screw this
Johnny Manziel and Tebow in the XFL. I will be betting so much money on XFL games. The DraftKings Sportsbook better raise their limits for XFL games if Tebow.
We'll create our own bets. If they don't have it, we'll create some.
Yeah, we'll do anything. So, Will, you mentioned you like some team over-unders in college football, and so who do you like?
There's a couple, like North Carolina, the Mac Brown Express. They've got Sam Howell, a quarterback who was supposed to be a Florida State quarterback, which I'm a little bitter about, admittedly. I mean, I like James, Blackman, but I think Howell would have been better. They were really bad last year. They were 2-9, but they had a lot of close games. They had multiple overtime games. Their yardage differential really wasn't all that far off. And, I think their win total kind of reflects, just the wins of last year. They were 2-9. So 4.5 is really low. I like that as an over, for sure. I forget the exact odds. It's favored. I like Florida State's win total at 7.5. Taggart has always, it's, homer of me, of course, but Taggart's teams make the leap in year two. And if he's going to stick around, going to have to make the leap in year two. Can't go 5-7 again at Florida State and keep a job. So 7.5 is pretty low. I think 8-4 is an easy bar to make. That includes a Clemson loss and a couple other losses, maybe to Florida. I hope not. I think that that's pretty easy. Clemson's over under amazingly at 11.5. I would take the over there amazingly. Just assume they go undefeated. That's tricky though. I'm not sure I would go there necessarily, but that's another solid one. There are several spots. I think if you look early, like a team like Utah, has gotten a lot of hype. Their win total is only 9. So if you think they can have a 10-2 type season, go with Utah. So there's some opportunities there.
Yeah, there's a million things. And Gary, is there any over-unders you like, or we should move on? Because there's all the conferences from Michigan and Ohio State are both plus 175 to win the Big Ten. Clemson's only minus 500 to win the ACC. I don't know if I want to lock my money up all year in that, but I
wouldn't touch that.
Would be surprised if they lost.
It's funny as I just said, take the Clemson over at 11.5, but I wouldn't take the Clemson favorite to win. It's a waste. It's a stupid.
Yeah, there's no point to ever betting anything minus 500. It's just you can find a better way and a more
especially
creative.
not if it's the Astros minus 500. You're definitely okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good lesson. Good lesson there. Oklahoma minus 167 to win the Big 12. The Pac-12 is interesting. Utah's the favorite at plus 200, Washington at plus 275, Oregon at plus 400.
I think Oregon and USC, like value-wise, Oregon at plus 400 with, got Justin Herbert. That's pretty nice. USC, a little bit of a dark horse at plus 900 too.
Yeah, and just two more I wanted to give out. UCF only plus 140 to win the AAC, and how dominant they've been.
And they have yet another extremely easy schedule, and they've got a senior quarterback. So, I mean, at plus money, take that.
That's where I was going right there. And I was kind of surprised how low these odds are because Alabama's so favored to win the national championship. Minus 159 for Alabama to win the SEC.
I think Georgia. I think it's Georgia. Yeah.
Georgia's plus 225.
I think Georgia, is the only reason it isn't like minus 275 or minus 300.
Yeah, those odds are so close versus the odds to win the national championship. Georgia's plus 900 to Alabama plus 250. Alabama's obviously in that tier.
I think they assume there's a chance that Alabama and Georgia both make the playoff, and I think that's probably what that's banking on.
I mean, it's the thing too with taking Georgia at like plus 225 to win the SEC is, I don't know, like, do we really think the odds are going to be that much significantly different just in terms of the SEC championship game? Like, and unless we're talking about an Alabama team that's coming off like an Iron Bowl loss or something like that, I feel like you could probably just get Georgia day of for that one game at like plus 175, plus 190 money line. So I don't know if I want to wrap up an entire season of Georgia football. I mean, they've got to play Florida. I know they've got to play Notre Dame early in the season too. They've got a couple top 10 matchups. I feel like I would just wait it out and take whatever their money line odds are in the SEC championship game if you really want to bet Georgia.
Something I thought was interesting, not the same conference, but it was in the Big 12. It was Texas's plus money to make the conference final, which I think they're pretty much the number 2 team there. So I like that for them in Oklahoma to make the conference final there.
Yeah. Texas football is kind of back a little bit.
Sort of.
Yeah, I think it's Sam Ellinger. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, we made so many jokes I have throughout the years. My favorite was when Texas kicked off in both halves against UCLA because they just didn't know what was going on. That was my favorite Texas football moment.
Yeah, I think they're finally back. I mean, I think they're back before Notre Dame came back too.
Yeah, so
definitely back before Miami.
Never quite back.
Apparently they are back. So I want to get into some of the week 1 games, week 1 odds, and our favorite games there. Obviously, I think there's only one top 25 matchup at all, and that's Oregon versus Auburn. And Will, I know you had thoughts on that game.
Give me Oregon plus money at home. Give me the future NFL quarterback.
He could have been the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. So give me all of that. Like, yeah, give me plus money on Oregon money line at home.
Garion, do you have any thoughts on Justin Herbert and just?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's got to come down to the quarterback battle, and it's kind of shocking. I know in terms of like just conference performance, I can understand why the SEC would get credit over a Pac-10 that has been, undeniably weak and underwhelming the past 2 seasons. But at the same time, you've got Herbert versus a true.
They've been so weak they had to add 2 more teams.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. But against a true freshman quarterback, I mean, it's the first time Auburn has rolled out a true freshman quarterback since the 1940s to start their first game. It just really seems like that matchup dramatically favors Oregon.
I'm really surprised Auburn's favored, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, and look, if you look at the last 11 non-conference games Auburn's played, against the spread, they're 3-7-1. So it's not like they've had a ton of success when they get to leave the big bad SEC either. So I think I would just take the home team as a home dog here with, like Will said, the much better quarterback.
To be clear, the game is at AT&T Stadium.
It is a neutral site. Yeah, it's a neutral site. But still, without the home field advantage, like I just don't see how we got to 4. I don't know how that number
I'll call that home. Maybe it's the future home of Cowboys quarterback Justin Herbert. I don't know.
Justin Herbert, because the Cowboys are not going to pay Dak $40 billion. Apparently, maybe that report wasn't true, but also Dak would deny it. Who knows? $40 billion.
A reporter made up something about the Dallas Cowboys? No way.
Never.
Well, that's never happened ever. So that's a great point. It has to be true.
Well, they're not going to pay Dak and they're not going to pay Zeke, so maybe they'll be scouting running backs too.
Yeah, hey, well, Justin Herbert, hey, maybe he wins the Heisman. Like, everyone forgot about him. He was going to be the number 1 pick last year.
So 22-1's not that bad. It's not a crazy long shot.
And if he beats Auburn in this week 1 game, the only top 25 matchup, the main game people are going to be watching, in my opinion, he wins that game. He has a good performance against an SEC team. All of a sudden, people are going to start thinking, hey, this guy for Heisman. And then all of a sudden, like you said, the Pac-12 is just very, very weak. My Arizona Wildcats lost to Hawaii in week 0. Just nobody's good. And I have another pick against a Pac-12 school.
I mean, look, everyone just specifically remembers Washington just laying an egg against this same Auburn team. Like, I can understand why there's some trepidation about taking a Pac-10 school against Auburn, but yeah, I think +4 is too good to pass up here.
Yeah, well, there's a game that my favorite one on the board to bet, and that is Kent State +25 at ASU. I know you guys are probably thinking we really want to talk Kent State football right now.
Julian Edelman, baby.
Julian Edelman.
I was going to say, Julian Edelman's obviously proud of you. So
there you go. Well, you mentioned that Auburn's starting a true freshman for the first time since the 40s. Well, ASU is starting a true freshman for the first time ever in school history, and that is Jaden Daniels. I like his future. I like his potential. A great quarterback in high school. Insane numbers. They're just outrageous. But I don't think he's going to be as explosive in his first game with Herm Edwards as coach, who I just don't believe in as a college football coach. I know a lot of people do, but I just don't think he's very forward-thinking. I don't think he's
pretty solid last year with him, for what it's worth.
They didn't finish that strong. They had a couple of good games early, but they didn't finish that season very well. I thought they got pretty lucky in general. And like I said, now they're starting a true freshman quarterback in game 1. Herm Edwards, who he made fun of me in person one time talking about analytics.
There it is. The truth comes out.
But it wasn't that he made fun of me personally. It was that he just doesn't believe in analytics. He thinks they're hogwash in every way. And I just think in 2019 that those coaches aren't going to be as successful. And Kent State's had all offseason to have, a lot of these players, it's the biggest game of their lives playing at ASU to beat a Pac-12 school. They didn't get scholarship offers from some of these bigger names. And
it's a pretty big party school, though. So
that is very, very true.
A little bit of distraction on that front.
As someone who went to the school in Arizona where they actually teach you, the kids actually know how to read, ASU is a big-time party school where everybody gets in. If you can spell your name correctly or even close, they let you into that school.
Hey man, Gronkowski's got a lot of letters in it, so watch your tongue on this one. It's harder than it looks.
Real quick, well, Gronk went to U of A, not ASU, but it's funny. I saw Gronk trending on Twitter this morning. Did you guys see why Gronk was trending?
Because wasn't he like promoting some CBD oil or something like that?
Yeah, I guess he started like a CBD company, but I saw Gronk was the number 1 trend on Twitter, and I immediately left that, picked him up in fantasy football as fast as humanly possible. It was like, because I just assumed maybe Gronk's going to come back or whatever. I don't have time to read into this. Like, maybe he's deciding, and then he's
I was going to ask this before when you were talking about Luck. Of Luck and Gronk, who do you think is more likely to come back and play?
Oh, Gronk, 100%.
I would say Gronk this year, Luck overall, because if Gronk doesn't come back, it's going to be now. But Luck has.
I'm still really surprised. Do you think Luck's going to come back? I really don't think he's going to play another snap of NFL football.
Really? It could be 5 years from now. Like Josh McCown's still playing NFL football.
I mean, he's only
I don't know. I just feel like some guys need to like play 20 years of football. They need to be like these, quarterbacks who hang around and create, coaching relationships to possibly get like an OC gig down the line. I just don't think Andrew Luck needs this kind of stuff. He's one of the more interesting guys in football. I just don't know if he needs football, and I think he might have figured that out. But yeah, I kind of want Gronk to come back right now because you know how many gifs we would get of Gronk spiking Andrew Luck's head? 1,000. And I want to see those gifs.
Look, I assume Gronk's going to come back. It's going to be week 11. Patriots will be, 7-3. Tom Brady's going to give Gronk a call, say, take a couple weeks more, enjoy the Bahamas, be back by week 14. And I see Gronk coming back. But
hasn't he been pretty thin? Like he's going to have to put some weight on.
Yeah, he has.
He's slimmed down.
Well, that CBD oil apparently is helping. And now we're selling that here on the Between the Lines podcast for DraftKings.com. MLB.com. Just so you know, that's Will Appleby who said about CBD. That was not me. That was Will Appleby.
If Gronk wants to come on the podcast and shill his CBD oil, I'm sure we're perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, hey, I know some people who played college football with them. We'll try to make that connection
between the CBD lines. There it is.
Yeah. So, yeah. But back to Kent State and ASU. I won't get too angry at Herm Edwards for much longer. But Woody Barrett, we mentioned Auburn earlier in this podcast. That game, he's the quarterback for Kent State. Woody Barrett is a former Auburn commit. Up and down season last year. I think he had 11 touchdowns, 9 picks, but he's a dual threat quarterback. He can run around in circles and have some nice plays. And their defense at Kent State is just horrible, but I think I can hold up against Jaden Daniels as a true freshman quarterback in his first ever start. And again, plus 25 points. I don't think Kent State's going to go out there and win this game. I don't think that's realistic, but they could be down 31 in the fourth quarter and cover. They could be down 36 in the fourth quarter and come back late and score a couple touchdowns. So I really believe in Kent State, and they'll be on my best bets. I want to talk UCLA, Cincinnati. This feels like an all Pac-12 podcast now, but some of the biggest games happen.
Pac-10, right, Garion?
Oh yeah. Look, man, I can't stay up all the way on the West Coast. Are you kidding me? I get some beauty sleep.
Hey, well, good news for you, Garion. I think the Pac-12 is going to experiment with a noon kickoff time. So,
oh yeah, I saw that with the Fox best game of the week, yada yada.
Yeah.
Look, guys, I'm just beyond conferences at this point. Like, I don't know if you guys heard of Notre Dame. Like, they're a pretty notable school. Like, we just don't even do the whole conference.
They're an ACC school in everything but football, because that makes total sense.
Yeah, it's college sports.
Yeah, the whole system is just completely confusing, but. Notre Dame, the hardest non-conference schedule in the country because they play non-conference games every single week, I guess.
Yeah.
But UCLA plus 2.5 at Cincinnati. Chip Kelly gets a whole offseason to prepare his team. Will, I know you had some thoughts on this game.
Chip Kelly. I mean, come on. It's Chip Kelly, Oregon. Let's see what happens against, since he's not even ready for Chip Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you give that guy entire offseason to prepare, and I think he'll come up with a few things. Like a lot of times in week 1, week 0, it's not about which team's better, but really it is just about the preparation of you don't have.
How do we feel about this week 0 name, by the way? I'm not like it's
kind of like the NCAA tournament when they said it was the first round when it was really the playing game.
Yeah,
they got rid of that real quick. So I think the week 0 thing needs to go the same direction.
Yeah, I mean, I've only said it 38 times on here on Between the Lines podcast, but
don't make it 39.
Won't make it 39. Won't make it 39. So, UCLA plus 2.5 at Cincinnati. Will, was there any other games you wanted to get into in college football? I know there's a couple baseball things you wanted to mention.
Florida State. As much as this is the time. Got Boise State. We got another true freshman. It's true freshman season this year. Boise State trotting out a true freshman. So Florida State's got James Blackman at the helm. He put up big numbers the last time he started. He threw for over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, lost by 20 because he did most of it in garbage time. But we won't mention that part. Get a 5-star running back in LeBourne coming back off of an injury. Tamorian Terry's going to take another big step at receiver. I think this is the time that Florida State is going to get back to being. Maybe not national championship Florida State, but competent, Florida State, which is like 8-3, 9-4, which would be fine. And I think it starts with a win over Boise State in Jacksonville, which will essentially, and I will correctly say this time as a neutral site, be a home game. So, give me Florida State money line. They will be my best bets. I like the Oregon money line. Even in AT&T Stadium, which I had the stadium wrong, I still like Oregon money line. Another one I like is North Carolina is a 9.5 point underdog at home, which South Carolina is not a great team, and neither is North Carolina, frankly. But I think they're better than they were last year, and they will be with Howell. So I like North Carolina to cover that. So those were the games that stood out to me.
Yeah, something also I'm going to look out for is these true freshman quarterback, because I don't know this for a fact, but it looks like there's more of true freshmen starting than ever before. I mean, we mentioned some teams ASU never having won in their school history, Auburn for the first time since the 40s. Will just brought up another one. Kind of might look to see how these guys perform earlier in a week 1 of college football and see, like, are these true freshmen just falling apart? Are they covering at a super low rate? And if so, I might start betting against true freshmen come Saturday night if I see that these freshmen have just been really, letting their teams down earlier in the week. And it's something to look out for next year. I'm definitely going to try to see the total of true freshmen, how they do against the spread, because I just don't believe in like 18, 19-year-olds who have never played a college football game being fully ready. And a lot of times it could be the best decision for the team because the future is there. They have to worry about a whole season, not just one game.
I mean, look what Jameis. I mean, he wasn't a true freshman, but I mean, he was a redshirt freshman. But look what Jameis. I mean, it is a big difference with that extra year. But I mean, I think the game is a lot more wide open, and I think it's a lot easier for quarterbacks to just slide right in and start right away, and have not tremendous Heisman winning success, but decent success, to where they're just not getting killed the way true freshmen did in the past.
Yeah, I just, I worry about some of these guys. Hey, they're more prepared. Some of these high school football programs are more like college football programs were 25 years ago for sure. But, I mentioned Jaden Daniels too many times on this podcast, but you show up to ASU, it's a bunch of beautiful girls and parties going on, and you got to start a game in a few weeks. I just don't believe in it. Last game I wanted to mention is Fresno State plus 14 at USC. It's a throwback to one of my favorite games of all time. Those 2005 Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush team barely held off Fresno State in one of the best games I've ever seen. Reggie Bush had like 240 rushing yards, but Jeff Tedford, the coach of Fresno State.
Technically, Reggie Bush had 0 rushing yards in that game, and the NCAA will thank you.
Officially noted as 0. So.
That's true. Also, I made up the name Reggie Bush. That person does not exist. He never played college football.
Correct.
Good point, Garion.
There you go.
Man. Just how silly is that in general, by the way?
It's ridiculous. But again, the NCAA, you almost want to lean into the ridiculousness, because if you just take everything at face value, it's a really hard sport to watch.
Right. Exactly. So I'll go Jeff Tedford, I think, with the whole offseason. Again, I don't think Fresno State's going to win this game, but USC is down from what they were. And I think plus 14 is a lot of points. They can backdoor cover possibly, or push if things go wrong. But I think there's a good chance to lose this game by 7, 10, 13 points. So like Fresno State. Anything else in college football before I want to get a tinge of baseball and then our best bets?
There was a rivalry prop. There were a bunch that were plus money. The one I liked was Ohio State to beat Penn State and Michigan at plus 150. I just don't trust Michigan. I don't trust Jim Harbaugh. I don't think he's going to get it done. He's got the senior quarterback. We're talking about experienced quarterbacks. He's got the senior in Shea Patterson. I just like Justin Fields a lot more. So if I'm going to get plus money on Ohio State to beat the teams they should beat, give it to me. Yeah.
Head into the DK Sportsbook, and just there's a million props like that, like rivalry props. Will this team beat that team? Who's going to perform better? Over unders for everybody. So a lot of fun stuff. And remind me after the show, I got a couple of Harbaugh stories to tell you that I can't mention on air that I heard. Okay, to baseball quickly. I know you had a couple bets you liked today. Let's get them out.
Are we best betting at this point?
We'll get them into our best bets. We'll do it all at one time. Here's the best bet segment. And Will, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Surprisingly, to me, at least anyway, Justin Verlander, his strikeout prop tonight against the Rays is 8.5. And he is plus money to go over that mark. He has done it 7 straight starts. He's been in the double digits, 7 consecutive starts, and he's now plus money to go over 8.5. So that feels like a gift. Just take it. If it goes wrong, fine. But that to me, that's a gift. Jump all over that. Walker Buehler also along those same lines. The guy who put up 15 strikeouts against the Padres. He is also plus money. He's at plus 120. Verlander was at plus 118. To go over 8.5. Buehler put up 15 against the Padres with Tatis. This is the Padres without Tatis. So give me $100 on both of those. I really like both of those. College football wise, the ones I mentioned, I'm putting 100 on North Carolina plus 9.5, and I'm putting 100 on Florida State money line at minus 200, and 100 on Oregon's money line at plus 155.
All right. So I think you're gonna have some competition from best bets because I'm real confident in what I'm doing here, and I wish I could just go all Kent State. I just love Kent State plus 25.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
Yeah, me, Garion, Julian Edelman are all in on Kent State this year, but I'm gonna go $200 on Kent State plus 25 at ASU. I'm gonna go $150 on UCLA plus 2.5.
Arizona State's covers we're gonna crush you. Just FYI.
We'll see. But $150 on Fresno State plus 14 at USC. I like the three of those. Again, Kent State, my favorite one out of all of them. Maybe even a little more than the percentage of money I put on it. Really like those three. I guess I went Pac-12 heavy, a little bias here in Southern California, but just really like those games and those matchups. Gary, what are you doing for your best bets?
I mean, college football is alluring. I'll give you guys that. But I've been kind of killing it with baseball bets in August, so I'm going to stick to baseball. I've got 4 bets that I really like. Although I will say I also plan to bet on Justin Verlander over 8.5 strikeouts, much like Will. But one game that really stuck out tonight in terms of the total, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, over under 10. I really like the under. It's minus 15 if you want to bet the under. Look, these two teams had 11 innings and could barely get over this number last night. I can understand if you're a little wary of the bullpens, but Steven Brault has quietly been incredibly effective since he's making the transition from the bullpen to the starting rotation for the Pirates. It's about the only thing the Pirates have going for them right now. He's got a 2.62 ERA across his last 11 starts. He has also allowed just over half a home run per 9 innings, which in this current age of baseball is incredible. And then you got the Pirates. Like, look, the Phillies could score 8 runs tonight. The Pirates might not get on the board. I know Drew Smyly is not necessarily someone anyone likes to trust, but the Pirates have not only been the worst National League team in terms of isolated power in the month of August, they've also been the worst team in baseball all season long at hitting left-handed pitching. They've just got a 71 WRC plus against lefties. So I really like the under. I'm going to put $200 on that. I'm going to parlay the Yankees money line and the Dodgers money line to get that at plus 139. I'm going to put $100 on that. Pretty simple logic on this one. Dodgers are facing a right-handed pitcher, and they are incredible when they get to face right-handed pitchers. Even on the road, they've won 4 of their last 5 games against a righty. And the Yankees are 19-7 the last 26 times they've faced a lefty. They are 3rd in baseball in WOBA and WRC plus against left-handed pitching. I don't think Kikuchi is going to be able to shut them down tonight. So I think those 2 road teams, nice money line parlay to get to plus money with the 2 best teams in baseball. $100 that Adam Plutko goes over 4.5 strikeouts. Not really regarded as a strikeout guy, but the Tigers are terrible. They've struck out in over 30% of their plate appearances the last 2 weeks. They've also got a swinging strike rate of 15.2% across that span, which is easily the highest mark in baseball by about 4%. So plus money to get 5 strikeouts for Plutko, who has pitched 6 innings the last 3 times he's taken the hill. I think if he pitches into the 6th, against the Tigers, anyone can strike out 5 guys. So plus money, I really like that. And then Patrick Corbin to go under 7.5 strikeouts at minus 125 against the Orioles. People crap on the Orioles, rightfully so, but they actually haven't struck out all that much the past 2 weeks. Their strikeout rate as a team is under 20%. They're one of just 6 teams with a swinging strike rate below 10% within that span. And while Corbin, his strikeout numbers are incredible in left-on-left situations, there's a good chance the Orioles don't have more than 1 left-handed batter in their lineup tonight. They've got so many switch hitters on that roster. So I just don't think the matchup is great for Corbin tonight. So go the under at minus 125 for $100 on that one.
Yeah. Real quickly, Chris Davis is probably the main guy for strikeouts on that Orioles team. And like him being in or out of the lineup completely changes. Like how many
I'm gonna go on a limb and say Chris Davis is not gonna be in the lineup tonight against one of the best left-handed pitchers we have in baseball. And yeah, look, like people focus on Davis, but like Hanser Alberto, Jonathan Villar, Trey Mancini, even like Renato Nunez, these guys all have actually relatively great splits against left-handed pitching. The Orioles, if they're ever live as an underdog, it's against a left-handed pitcher. So maybe even look into Baltimore money line. I'm not man enough to do it.
The problem is they have Aaron Brooks pitching. So
yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah, that didn't go well. It hasn't gone well this season, for sure. And also betting against the Justin Verlander beating Tigers, Garion. But yeah, I'm excited for college football. Going to do a little baseball betting. Don't forget about that. But there's a million.
There's another baseball one I didn't get to bet on that I wanted to, was give me the Charlie Morton revenge game. His strikeout over under is 5.5. Even against the Astros, I think he gets over 5.5.
Okay, Charlie Morton revenge game. You heard it here first. Remember, as always, the odds and lines are subject to change. If you or somebody you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And go in the DraftKings Sportsbook, see all the odds, make some bets. College football is here. I'm going to bet on a million things. Never going to run out of things I want to bet on in college football. So let's have fun.
Kent State plays 13 games, so, just make sure you take enough for each one.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. And then also they have the college football playoff, Kent State, after that.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, so for Garion Thornton, Will Appleby, I'm Eric Rosendahl. We just went between the lines.